Hello, Little Falls. It's just Jeffrey joining you with our latest installment of our Historic New Jersey series. And today we are visiting Boxwood Hall in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's not often that I feel underdressed.
Well, it's a special occasion, so we'll wear some 18th century style clothing.
I was going to ask what the century was with this.
Boxwood Hall began as an 18-room mansion. It's a lot smaller than it used to be. And it covered 4 modern city blocks of property, 2 behind us and 2 across the street. And this is not how you or I would have lived back then. This is the top of the pile.
Very nice.
Economically. And they had outbuildings, there were wings on each side of the house, and a whole farm behind it. It was kind of like a home farm. They were not primarily farmers. They were professional men who lived here with their families. So the property changed as the city became larger. The property on the other side of East Jersey Street was sold by the mid-1800s, and the remainder sold at the end of the 19th century as Elizabeth went from a small town to a major city in pretty much 30 years. 10 years ago, when we redecorated, we realized that we have more than one story to tell, so we kind of take a little mini trip through time as we go through the house. Each room is a slightly different time period, and its decor and furnishings reflect that time. We put this bedroom together to represent a very important visitor. In September of 1824, a little over 200 years ago, the Marquis de Lafayette stayed overnight. And of course, he had gone back to France after the American Revolution, managed to survive the French Revolution. It was a little iffy every now and then expressed a desire to see the country he had helped to found, and made an official visit, tour of the United States in 1824 and 1825, and the country went nuts. Parties, parades, picnics, grand balls. They even made souvenirs. We'll see a few of those later on.
Real originals.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And part of the reason was, of course, he was one of the few Revoir leaders still alive and able to get around. But also, even though France and the United States, we sometimes hiss and spit and growl at each other, without French money and French troops, there would be no United States.
You had mentioned that while the furniture in this room is not original to the house,
right,
there are original period pieces.
Oh, yeah. The sofa here, which is a very elaborate early 19th century style. You see it has cornucopia, it has swan heads, it has the animal feet, and plain pieces like our little shaving mirror here that would be set up for a gentleman to shave himself or to be shaved by his valet or a servant in the house. The bed is draped in white. We said, well, Dayton was not in very good health when Lafayette came to visit. In fact, he died 2 weeks later. But by draping the bed in white, it would be a compliment to Lafayette. He had loved being a soldier, and the white tent was what the army officers used, so it would remind him of his soldier days. When the house was made into a museum, this room was given to the local Daughters of the American Revolution chapter as a meeting room. Well, when they disbanded this chapter, not the national organization, but this chapter, we changed it into exhibit space for small local history exhibits. Sometimes people loan us collections or pieces. We build on some of the pieces that are in our collection here at Boxwood that aren't out all the time, and different themes. So this one, which is actually going to be closing in the next week or so, is about Lafayette and his connection to the United States and how the country went absolutely crazy, showing some of the souvenirs that were made, and an announcement of fireworks in his honor in Boston, a badge worn by a young lady at a ball given to him, a portrait of Lafayette, and then also how he influenced local areas. We have a Lafayette, New Jersey. A lot of states have a town named Lafayette. A lot of cities have a street named Lafayette Street. In our case, it's the one that backs up on us on the other side of the property. Schools were named for Lafayette. So there's a lot of names of Lafayette that you find, and that most of them started sometime around 1824 or later on, but in the Frenchman's honor. This picture, I love it. I found out years later that it was apparently part of a huge tea set, but this is the cream picture. That's all that we have left. But on the front, it reads, Landing of General Lafayette, New York, 1824. I love it because it was made in England to commemorate a French general, to be sold in the United States 10 years after all three countries were trying to wipe each other off the face of the earth.
And it
So
survives.
Yeah.
I love this. Catherine, we're in this fantastic, very beautifully decorated parlor. Could you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, the portrait over the fireplace is the third owner, Jonathan Dayton, who purchased the house from Elias Boudinot in 1795. The piano over on the side here, that was made in New York in the early 1800s by the Nunn Brothers Company. You'll notice it's smaller. It only has 4.5 octaves, and it only has one foot pedal, and the sounding board is horizontal. And the bookcase behind us is a Philadelphia piece. Early 19th century, made for a man named Daniel Niles. We don't know the cabinet maker's name. The desk folds up and then it closes like a dresser drawer. It's not a roll top or a flip top desk.
So, Catherine, this fabulous, fabulous green room, where are we?
We are in what we call the Boudinot room because Samuel Woodruff, the first owner, died suddenly in 1768 and he left no will. So it was 4 years before the house was sold, and at that time it was purchased by Elias Boudinot and his wife Hannah Stockton Boudinot. And Hannah's brother was Richard Stockton, who went on to sign the Declaration of Independence. And we did this room in late summer, early autumn, 1775. The wallpaper in this room is called damask. It's copied from an 18th century pattern that was made to look like silk, because if you could afford silk on your walls in those days, you did, and if you couldn't, you bought paper that kind of looked like it. The marble around the fireplace is original to the house. It's King of Prussia marble from Pennsylvania, and it's quite a status symbol in Philadelphia because you can't get it anymore. The quarry is empty. The dining room is the site of probably our most famous visitor, George Washington. April 23rd, 1789, a committee met Washington here at the house. Now, we don't know what they served back then, so we decided to do the room as a family dinner preparing for the Washington visit. The dish closet straight ahead from us at that time was not a dish closet. It was the doorway into the wing, the lost wing of the house, probably with the winter kitchen. Now, the furniture in this room is 18th century. The original Boudinot furniture is at the Princeton University Art Museum. And, of course, we're never going to get it back. But it does help us to remind Princeton University that they were founded here in Elizabeth. And the man who got the royal charter is buried right here in the First Presbyterian Church Cemetery.
Catherine, I want to thank you so much for giving us this fantastic tour, and I want to thank Boxwood Hall for having us down here today.
And we want to thank you for the visit and encourage people to come, because in this short amount of time, we haven't even scratched the surface of all the stories we have to tell here.
So we will be back for another visit. There will be a part 2.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. So we'll see you next time, Little Falls. Have a wonderful day.